The government's far-reaching changes to the welfare system, universal credit, has been dogged by endless problems. Just one of them, that payments are made to the household, which can leave women in abusive relationships trapped without the financial means to leave. Last night on Newsnight, the Work and Pension Secretary Amber Rudd told Kirsty Walk that universal credit could help those suffering domestic abuse.
Actually, the riskier way where women were experiencing domestic abuse was on the old system. But on this system, I understand the concerns that people have. And they have a concern about the bit one payment. So I'm going to try and make split payments more available, and I'm going to try and give better training for people to look out for them.
That's interesting because split payments are only used in exceptional circumstances at the moment. You know that the Scottish Government is keen to make split payments automatic. At the moment, there are only about, according to your own minister, 20 split payments out of 880,000. So would you consider moving to a system where split payments were the default?
No, I don't think that's the right way to go. I mean, having household payments has been the way, for instance, for housing benefit. It hasn't come out of the blue, but it is important that the work coaches who have this personal relationship for the first time with individuals can spot domestic abuse and can work with the woman where necessary to help her leave and to help her reapply for universal credit if she does so.
Amber Rudd. The Conservative MP Heidi Allen has joined with Frank Field to tour the country to highlight some of the problems with universal credit and can join us now. Good afternoon.
Hello there.
On this narrow point, do you think Amber Rudd has got it right?
I think she's trying her very best to find a solution that sort of works for everybody. I know she does recognise the difficulties it can place victims of domestic abuse, but I also understand why it's a challenge to change the entire system and make it default for everybody when it's a relatively small number of people that this would help. But I'm still of the opinion that we should try and look at it, and our Work and Pension Select Committee did suggest that as a sort of a halfway compromise is put the IT resource, which needs to come from the DWP centrally, into the Scottish Government's request to try it and come up with a pilot and see whether it works.
And you've been touring the country, you've just started this. What have you found so far that you didn't know beforehand, perhaps?
We've only been to two locations so far. We were in London, Poplar and Southwark a couple of weeks ago, and Leicester yesterday. I think what was the most extreme thing for me was the very different sorts of people that end up being affected in the same way. It's deliberate that we're choosing to go to rural, city centre, high employment, low employment. We're deliberately choosing to go to lots of different areas. But for example, in Poplar, or rather if I start with Leicester yesterday, we spoke to some individuals who, through clearly difficult starts in life, you can imagine why they would end up on the benefit system and why they may struggle with the high IT aspect of universal credit, people with learning difficulties, mental health problems. But what shocked us in Poplar a couple of weeks ago, we spoke to a lady who was a biochemist and a gentleman who was an IT software engineer who'd been working in Canary Wharf. The lady was hit by a very, very ill young daughter that meant she lost her well-paid work. The young man who was in IT had some mental health issues. And these were two very articulate, highly educated people where the system failed for them. And I think that was the most stark thing for us so far, that such different types of people who you might imagine will be absolutely fine ended up being tripped up by the system.
And of course, incredibly upsetting for them, but it's upset you as well.
Yeah, it does. And it was funny actually that the Guardian journalist who was with us yesterday asked me about how he might report the emotion that I displayed, and I actually was trying to encourage him not to, because I get trolled unbelievably. I haven't even dared look at Twitter yet after yesterday, because I will get trolled within an inch of my life. But I am what I am emotional, and it is upsetting because we live in a very rich, prosperous country, and it can't be right, and it angers me.
One of the things that struck me from that report was your quotation, "Unless we blow the lid off, my lot," presumably the Conservatives, "are not going to listen."
Yeah, and I think it's because, and I could be guilty of this myself. I do, of course, have pockets of deprivation and poverty in my constituency, but by and large, I'm fortunate to represent an area of exceptionally high employment and lots of jobs and generally speaking, prosperity. So it's understandable that if you're an MP like me that doesn't represent a constituency with lots of poverty, you're perhaps not going to see it. And unless you're, a UC geek like I've become by sitting on the Work and Pensions Select Committee and hearing the evidence week in, week out, you're just not going to know it's there. And this was a very deliberate decision by me to ask Frank to come on this tour with me, because I wanted to visually show it. We take cameras, whether it's paper journalist or TV crew, because we have to show people that life may be very different to that which you experience in your own constituency.
I mean, on this programme and generally on the BBC, we've been reporting on this for a good long while. Is it time just to say universal credit doesn't work, it can't be fixed?
No, I really don't. And I see so many different issues with it. Some very small, just administrative things that could be fixed without significant funding. The way letters are worded, the way we, job coaches perhaps could be softer and more empathetic in their approach. Yes, there are some big expensive items as well, like restoring the taper rate and all the work allowances. But no, I think it is all perfectly doable. And what I'm most hopeful is that I see in Amber, as our new Secretary of State, an absolute acceptance from day one to say, OK, yep, clearly some stuff needs fixing here, let's tackle it. And that feels different to me. And that's why I'm determined to work with her to make sure that we get these changes.
Heidi Allen, thanks very much. We did ask to